Well, ladies and gentlemen, isn't that great music? TikTok, time to rock. I have to do a shout out to our brother, a great friend of the channel, Luca Ferreira, all the way from Pretoria, South Africa, for providing that to the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise that I will have a proper video sorted to go with that great intro music. And I'll attach Luca's social media accounts, guys, where you can touch base with him and let him know exactly what you think of that music. Ladies and gentlemen, also, it's my pleasure to have a guest all the way from the United States of America, a very good friend of the channel. We were having a great chat in the green room. I said, Jim, stop! Let's go live. Let's go live. Let's save it for going live. And he said, okay, all right, hurry up then. Let's go. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce the first time on the 5150 show, Jim. How are you, Jim? Good to see you, brother.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for having me on. Like I was saying backstage there, I absolutely love the show, man. You guys have the best Van Halen show. And I got to check out your Zoso show too, man, the Led Zeppelin stuff.
Yeah. Well, look, if you like Led Zeppelin, bro, if you like Led Zeppelin, jump on and hang out with us. You know, we're always looking to get people on to come in and share their opinions, their experiences, their thoughts with this music, because what we try to do on this channel, Jim, it's a collaboration between obviously the co-hosts and also the people that participate in the chat and watch us. So, but like I was saying, bro, you know, I've been following you through social media. If you're a Van Halen fan on social media, you're going to sort of touch base with people, you know, especially in North America, you know. So I came across you through a couple of contacts, John Conklin in particular, Alan Garber as well, you know, who's another good friend of the channel. So the fact that you've finally come on, and hopefully it won't be the first and last time you come on, but
no.
Yeah. So Jim, tell the people watching, and eventually later on I'll do a shout out, but you know, give the people a bit of a background about where you are, how you got into Van Halen.
Yeah, love to. I was thinking earlier that like I live in Connecticut, which is near New York and New Jersey, and I'm kind of lucky because that's where, I mean, like Craig Stofko and Conklin, Pete Caruccio, you know, Rob Johnson, all these, you know, David Nesdahl, all these guys lived like within, you know, I don't know, a couple of hours. So like when I'll get to the EVH-Con, but like when we have EVH-Con, all those guys come down, and like I see most of them, you know, outside of that whole event too. But it's like a pocket of Van Halen fans around here, man. You know what I mean? And they're all they're all huge contributors to this whole community, you know. So I kind of lucked out where, you know, from where I live. But yeah, you know, I was born in Greece. So I came here.
Wow.
Yeah, I was born in Greece, and I came here when I was 4 years old. And my dad was a guitar player. You know, he had an acoustic. You know, he was good. I mean, you know, he didn't have music or anything, right? But he was good. And you know, kind of like fell into music, and you know, right around like when I was 10, you know, at that point, you know, there was really, I only knew about AM radio, right? And, you know, you'd hear all this different stuff. Like I remember AM used to play everything from like Donna Summer to Black Sabbath. Like I used to hear all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I remember, and so I started playing guitar a little bit, but at this music store, it's actually like down the street from where I'm living now. And, you know, I wanted to like learn, like at this point, I didn't really know, I hadn't even known of who Van Halen was, right? I was more, I knew a little bit of like Led Zeppelin, some Rolling Stones. So I started taking some guitar lessons, but like my teacher, I remember his name, Paul Kiss, right? The guy had a black Les Paul Standard, right?
Yeah.
And that was the only thing I wanted in this world, was a Les Paul, right? And I had this big, you know, pretty cheap acoustic guitar, this like half mile off to play. And so I was taking lessons, and then like, I kind of gave up because I wanted to learn like Stairway to Heaven, like dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
I'm learning like the chords, just the chords, C, J, and so my friends would come over. I'm like, oh, let me play Stairway to Heaven for you. And they're like, that's not Stairway to Heaven, because they're expecting to hear the riff. I never played any riffs,
Yeah.
And then, so I kind of like gave up and started, I was playing soccer at the time. So I started playing some soccer. And then one summer, right around like, I think it had to be like 82, right? When I was about 13, 14, I had a raft, and I don't know, I live pretty close to the coastline here in Connecticut, but I can't remember how we ended up taking this raft to the beach. Like, I doubt my parents drove us, but somehow my buddy and I, we had this raft that we blew up, right? We took it to the beach, and we would just like, kind of paddle around in there. And one summer day, we're like packing up my raft to take it home, and I saw this huge VH in the sand.
Yeah.
Right. And I go to my buddy, and like, we're like 13, 14. I go to my buddy, and I'm like, what's that? And he's like, I think that's a band. I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't think anything of it. And then like around that time, like that same summer, I discovered FM radio, right? I finally discovered FM, and I was on there, and I hooked up to our to the local FM radio, like rock station. And one day I heard Beautiful Girls. I didn't know it was Beautiful Girls. I didn't know it was Van Halen. Okay.
Sure.
But I heard this thing, and the guitar sound like grabbed me. And if you listen to Beautiful Girls, it's not like the most gainy of tones, but it was just different, man. It was like different than everything else on the radio, whether it was Boston or I don't know, the Clash or something. It was just different. And then Dave's singing about girls, and he's doing the and the oohs, right? And at the end, there's this tremendous, great like guitar licks at the end, right? And I'm like, who the hell is this? And luckily, the guy was like, that's Van Halen, Beautiful Girls, blah, 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 blah. And I was stuck after that. I went and got Van Halen 1. And it was like, I tell my buddies the story. It's a little dramatized, but I tell them that like, it was like, I could see in color. It was just the most amazing sounds I'd ever heard. And I remember I was listening to it on my dad's stereo with the headphones, and I listened to it twice back to back. And then I went to bed, but I was hooked from that point on. I went and got back, I went and looked at the other albums. I got Van Halen 2 eventually, and like Women and Children and Fair Warning. And then I remember the very first album, the brand new album at the time that came out was 84. And I wanted 84 so bad. I mean, a lot of people, kind of like crap on Jump. I love Jump.
Yep.
When I heard Jump, I was like, this is fantastic. It's got the guitar solo in there, a lot of people are, and the thing was back then you didn't have the internet to like influence your opinion. You just had your own opinion. You know what I mean? And so I ended up getting 84, and then I started playing. I went to high school around that time, and I met a buddy of mine, Joe Vale, and we kind of just started. I started back up. We shared a locker with, because I went to an all boys school around here called Fairfield Prep, and because my name is at the end of the alphabet. It's funny, they ended up running out of lockers, right, for people at the end of the alphabet. So me and Vale, we had to share a locker, right? And with this school, I think for 2 weeks in the year, we had these like throwaway classes where you could sign up for anything. You could sign up for soccer. You could sign up for, like basket weaving, whatever it was, right? Or you could sign up for like remedial classes too. But,
Sure.
most people signed up for these like BS classes, right? And one of them was guitar. right? And I had played guitar, so I brought my guitar to this thing, and my locker mate, right, is there, Vale. I'm like, you play guitar? He's like, you play guitar? I'm like, yeah. So he was much more advanced, and that's what you need. You need a friend of yours that's a little bit more advanced than you to kind of learn from, you know.
Yeah.
And he would come over to this was for years, like through high school, through college, for many years. Like I would either go to his house or he would come to my house, and we'd like order a pizza or something in my basement, or whatever. And he'd be like, I learned this like Judas Priest riff. He's playing like, I don't know, something, right? And then I'd show him something that I learned, and then you kind of just got into guitar playing that way, by just trying to impress your buddy in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot more through that. And, the other thing that really helped me was when I was in high school. This guy came up to me because he knew I played guitar, and he showed me Guitar for the Practicing Musician, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It was the one with Eddie on it from the Fair Warning tour, and I think it had the tab for like little guitars or something, which at that point was way beyond me. But it was brilliant because you could play the song. Like if you were good enough, all you had to do was kind of put your fingers where the numbers said, right? And you could play the song. So I talked to my dad about that. I'm like, listen, here's just, I kind of, instead of taking these guitar lessons that are pointless, right? How about we get this subscription, and then I can just teach myself in a sense, right? And then forget it. I used to buy every Guitar World, every Guitar for the Practicing Musician. I still have like all these back issues down in my basement. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, all that stuff.
Gotta have them, brother. Gotta have them, Jim.
Man, no, that really helps. That really helps, and you would learn stuff, and then through that, you would kind of see how songs were written and how things kind of like flowed together. How this part went in with this part, and how this part is very similar to this part in this other song. You know what I mean? And from then on, I just got the guitar playing bug to the point where I think it was my senior year in high school. I mean, I wasn't doing terrible, but I wasn't doing well in this one class, right?
Sure.
And my old man, he had, God bless him, he had to go talk to the teacher, right? It was economics, right? And he had to go talk to the teacher. I'm like, oh boy. And what happened was, in order to get me to study, he ended up locking up my amp and my guitar, because in my basement, underneath the stairs, we had a closet, and he would lock it in there, right? But what I would do is with this doorknob thing had a lock, but you could pick it with like a clothespin. You could just push out the lock, right? So when my dad was asleep upstairs, I would sneak downstairs, right? Unlock the door, take my stuff out, practice a little bit real quiet, and put everything back like where it was, I was just crazy about guitar, and then I went off to college, and when I came back around 1990, I was down in your neck of the woods in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have a whole side of my family down there in Adelaide.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I know New Zealand, like Adelaide to New Zealand is like from here to California. It's not that close. I understand that. But I was down there for a month, and I had some of them passed away, but I had 4 aunts, 2 uncles. My grandmother was down there, still living in 1990, and I had about 10 cousins, So I went down there for a month. My dad, for my graduation present, he sent me and my mom down there for a month. And I remember I landed on the 4th of July there in Australia, and I had the best month. When I came back to America a month later, right, I was so depressed, right, because I loved it there, right? And then I get a call from my buddy Joe Vale, who at the time had this big band around in this area. And when I was in college, I'd come home and I'd check out his, it was a cover band, but they played some good gigs and stuff, and I really wanted to be in this band. So when I came back from Australia, I was kind of like bummed out for like a week, and I got a call, and he's like, you wanna try out for the band? I'm like, yeah, because one of the guitar players left. And then really from like 1990 to now, with the exception of a couple of years where I got my MBA, I've been playing live ever since, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. All cover stuff. Like I was telling you in the green room, like, you know, we wrote one or two. I wrote one or two originals with my buddy Joe that they recorded. His band recorded, right? But I never really had the interest to, you know, do originals myself. I was really into learning how to play other people's stuff, you know. And
Well, Jim, you know that makes sense. You know, because you know, you know, Dave Nesdell, for example, we spoke about him in the in the green room, and I did a show earlier with Alan Garber, and you know, Dave Nesdell made a career playing covers. Do you understand what I mean? Being in a covers band, so that still brings out that creativity that you have as a man, as a guitar player, as a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I have this thing where, like, and you know, whether it's right or wrong, I have this thing where if I see a good cover band, I have this thing about like people doing their homework. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like you can go see a cover band. Like there's some guys around here that are in 3 or 4 bands, and like they'll do like you know, like the usual 80s through 90s covers, right? And like when it comes time for the solo, they'll just wing it, whatever, and then go on to the rest of the song. But I feel like if I see a good cover band where the guy is nailing the song and nailing the solos, that to me means that this guy put the work in. And I really respect that. I really respect that. As opposed to like, I kind of feel like if you were going to do, you know, I could write a song. Would it be any good? Would anybody want to hear it? No.
Yeah. No, look, I went and saw a Led Zeppelin tribute band last Saturday with a good friend of the channel, and it was an international band made up with guys from, you know, a couple of different countries. And I have to agree with you, Jim. The guitar player nailed the important parts of the song, but more importantly, the bass player. The bass player played their part. So you get this kind of appreciation. You're anticipating these solos or these songs because they're so ingrained in us.
Absolutely.
You know, we've been listening to these songs for a long time. So you know, you're anticipating that something is going to happen. And when it does, it's like, wow. And if sometimes, you know, when you go and watch a band and they don't quite get it right, it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, 5 points for trying. You know, that's the way that it goes. I just want to sort of just add one other thing before I get you to continue your story. I'm glad that you mentioned tabs in guitar magazines, because when I started reading the tabs too, it became apparent to me. I couldn't understand them. I didn't know what they meant, Jim, but at least that gave me an idea that the stuff that we were listening to, for example, Eruption, even though it seemed impossible for a human being, for another man to play or a woman to play, apparently, if you followed this formula, this code, this special code, you could play it. That's what I liked. That's what I liked about this idea of tabs, because you know,
that's what I mean. You could play the song, and more importantly, like regular music books didn't have solos written out.
No.
You know,
like I had the bloody chords.
Oh yeah. When I was taking lessons, it was almost like an excuse for my parents to buy these music books, right? My old man, he bought me this book called Zeppelin Complete. I can still picture it in my head, right? It was like this thick, right? This thick. And supposedly had every Led Zeppelin song in there, right? But it didn't have any music to the solos or the licks or anything. You know what I mean? Whereas the tab, it was just like eye-opening, because if you were good enough, or if you practiced, if you sat there, you know, next to your you know, record player or tape deck, you could eventually figure it out. You know, it was like somebody gave you the code to the song. You just had to kind of like be good enough to play it. You know?
Hey, Jim, I'm just going to do a quick shout out before we continue the chat, if that's okay. So in the top of the chat, we've got Kurt5150, Gretch Zeppelin, great friend of the channel, John Dish Chain. Deschan. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. Very good friend of the channel. Here he is, Keith Van Halen Campbell. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, Keith. Yeah.
Always a pleasure to see you. Guitar Man 45 is here with us. Paulie Walnuts, another good friend of the channel. Ben Coombs, there he is, all the way from Canada.
Ben.
Go and see the video that Ben and I did about 2 weeks ago. It's a fantastic one. Good to have you on board with a show with us, Ben. Johnny Beans in the chat. Drops
Johnny,
Family Gardens is here. Guitar Man 45. Dan of New Jersey. Who else have I missed? A good friend of the channel is also here, Tim Thomas. I think that's about it. I promise later on we'll get to say another shout out. If you guys have any questions for Jim too, any questions at all, put them in the chat and I'll do my best to ask Jim those questions.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, so I started playing in bands and stuff, and it was just, we used to do like I remember our tour de force back then was we had 3 guitar players, right? And the funny thing is that there was 3 guitar players, and we were all okay, we were good.
Yeah.
I was probably at the time I was the worst one, but we had to find a drummer, and we had a drummer who was a better guitar player than all 3 of us combined, right? I remember that. Yeah, it was the drummer. And at breaks, he would do, like, this is right around the time where when Extreme was big, like 92, 93 or whatever. And he was doing Flight of the Bumblebee or whatever it's called, right, on the guitar. We were like, oh my God. So yeah, so we, I was in this band. It was called Smoke and Joe Vale's Memorial Bar and Grill Band and Ensemble. Shout out to Joe Vale on that one. And, we should do some Southern rock, some AC/DC, but it was just, I remember my very first show. I actually found video, that drummer that I just mentioned sent me video of my very first show that I ever played, right? And it was just so freaky to see yourself like 30 years ago, you know what I mean? And
wow.
Yeah, it was, and he shot I think somebody in his family shot 3 songs. We were doing some Aerosmith and some AC/DC, and he doesn't have this on video, but our whole tour de force thing with 3 guitars was we used to do Freebird note for note at the very end, the 3 guitars, right?
Oh my gosh. And
then that band kind of like ended up dying out, and then I was in this other band called the Gamma Rays for a while, where it was more like 80s, 80s, pop and, like all the 80s hits, you know what I mean? And about maybe 15 years ago, I was in this local band around here called Megahertz. And my very first show was we opened up for Blue Oyster Cult. That was my very first. No, that was my second show. Was Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And we used to do. I used to see these guys.
Just hold on. Hold on. Yeah. Your second ever show.
With this band. With this band.
Okay. Yeah. You're opening for Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah. We opened up for Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's I'll send you the link. There's video of it somewhere. There's video if you look up Megahertz on the YouTube. There's video.
We'll attach that video with a lot of other videos to this video, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching the replay. So go and check that out when we attach it. All right. Cheers, Jim.
Yeah. So like this band, we did like, metal. We used to do like Iron Maiden, and we used to do Ozzy. We used to do Dokken, rap, Motley Crue, you name it, Def Leppard. At in the very beginning, it was a little bit heavier. Toward the longer I was in there, we kind of like stretched it out to like more like hair metal stuff. You know what I mean? But I was not there for like maybe like 7-8 years, and then my singer left. Right. And I tried continuing it with the guys that were in that band, but we couldn't call it Megahertz anymore. Right. So I tried auditioning the singer, and it didn't work out. So around that time, this puts me to about, I know I'm jumping around, but this puts us to about 2013. Right. And since I thought I had a singer, we had these 2 disaster gigs. Right. Because when I audition anybody, my first question is, have you been in other bands? Do you have experience? And he lied to me and told me that he did. and he didn't know how to hold a microphone. He would hold it down towards the ground, and it would feed back through the monitors. And we just had 2 disaster gigs. It was just bad. And I sent an email to my guys saying, look, we can't do this anymore. You know, I'm done. And nobody was booking us. You know what I mean? So around like early 2013, I kind of like just sat around for like 3 or 4 months, right? And then I remembered that these friends of mine, they wanted to do a Van Halen tribute, right? And I thought it was absurd because I didn't think, you know, anybody would have cared, or even honestly that even we could even pull it off, you know.
Sure.
But you know, that kind of like stuck in my head, and I was like, you know, let's just try it, right? And we got together and we learned like some easy stuff in the beginning, like Running with the Devil and talking about love, blah blah blah. Feel Your Love Tonight, we kind of got to, and then we in my head we kind of hit these like landmarks where you know, one of the biggest tests was like, you know, with like a couple of months into this, it was like, can we do Hot for Teacher? That seemed almost impossible, right, to me. And we were able to get Hot for Teacher together, and I was thinking, you know, maybe people would, I don't know, maybe we could do this, you know. And we started getting, you know, more and more songs, and we played our first gig, and you know, people came up. We opened up for the Queensryche tribute. Great guys, great tribute, and
Sure.
And it went well. And but then like, you know, there was like personnel issues, you know, people coming out of the band. But I was able to get people to replace them because it's easy to replace one guy because you
Okay.
have there are 3 guys, you know. I never had to once you have to replace more than one guy, it's really
Yep.
it's like it's geometrically harder, because how are you going to audition a bass player when you don't have a drummer, and how are you going to audition a drummer without a bass player? I mean, you could, but it's like the other thing is that people see that you don't have a full band and they're not that interested. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So you know, I was able to get people in, and you know, we've been doing this for about, I think next year is going to be our 10-year anniversary. We've been doing for, you know, for 9-10 years now, and you know, we've grown it a little bit. It's really just in Connecticut. We've gotten some offers to play out in like Massachusetts and Pennsylvania. I'm just trying to figure out how to make the money work, you know, because of
Sure.
the travel and all that. But we're kind of growing it. We've got, you know, people that come out and see us. We do about 40 plus songs a night. It's just us. We play from like, you know, like last weekend we did 6:30 to 9:30, and we went through like 40 songs. You know, because those Van
Wow.
Halen songs, especially the Dave stuff, it's like 3 minutes long. So for you to fill a night, you got to do almost everything, you know.
Sure.
And so that's the thing. Like we've got, you know, we have about 80 songs, kind of like we've done at this point. We've done 80 plus or plus more, you know, songs in our like master list. But you can't play everything every night. You know what I mean? And we're always learning new stuff. And when I first started it used to just be Dave era stuff, you know, because we were just like, okay, let's just focus on the Dave stuff. Yeah, that's challenging enough. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure.
And I was lucky. I fell into some really good guys. The guys that I have right now are great players, diehard Van Halen fans. My drummer is amazing, right? And they're all really good guys. We all get along, you know?
Yep.
So I'm lucky in that regard. So yeah, we've been doing it, you know, for a while. We've kind of been growing it a little bit. I already booked some gigs for 2023. Ideally, for all these years, we used to only play like once a month because
Okay.
because you can't burn out your crowd on that. You know, like I feel like you have to have at least a month between gigs to promote, and we promote
Sure.
on Facebook. I pay Facebook, whatever, to like promote my gigs and promote my posters and all that. But in 2023, I think we're going to start doing not every month, but maybe like two gigs like every other month, and then one gig the other months. You know what I mean? So we're gonna you know, add a little bit to our calendar, which is fun. And you know, we just go out there. You know, we just want to have fun, you know, and nobody's like retiring on the money that we're going to make on this band. You know what I mean? It's actually the person that gets the most money is the sound guy. We have a sound guy, you know, Wojtek Trzynski. That's my man. Little shout out to him. Greatest sound guy, and a diehard Van Halen fan too. And I trust him because like this guy, right? He doesn't set and forget the sound. He you know, like he knows when the solos are coming. He knows where the licks are, and he'll raise me a little bit, and he'll raise the drums a little bit for like Hot for Teacher. It's fantastic. Anyway, like the sound guys make more money than anybody in the band. You know what I mean? But you know, we just do it for fun and kind of just like, you know, keep the Van Halen thing going in a sense, you know. But I have to stress in the beginning, I didn't think any of us would even. I didn't think people would care, and I didn't think we could even do it, you know. But
isn't that interesting, Jim? That people clearly do care. So I'm just going to fire a couple of questions at you.
Yeah.
So since the passing of Eddie, and you've done, you know, obviously a few gigs.
Mhm.
What's the sentiment of the people when they come up to you during the sets, you know, or after the gig and stuff like that? You know, what kind of comments are you getting from people when you've done your set? You know, people that maybe who've never seen Van Halen live and now they're seeing you and they're sort of making some connections.
Yeah, we every October, in a couple of months, it's going to be our second annual. But around October, we play this big room in Southington, Connecticut called Crystal Bees. Huge stage, right? And it's got this like walkway in the back, and you feel like you're in Def Leppard, like you're walking up this ramp. Yeah, sick. You're walking up this ramp to go on this stage, right?
Wow.
And so every year there around October, like we usually have our gigs like the last weekend of the month. That's kind of like how I schedule it, right? So around like the last weekend of the month, around October, we have this memorial show. And last year we did 1984 in its entirety. Like we'll play from like 8 to 11. So we'll start the show at 8 o'clock, and we'll just do, you know, songs. We'll take a break. And then when we came back, we did 84 start to finish. And then we did, you know, like the rest of the hits, you know, like Pound Cake or whatever to end the show. And like people, I mean, I haven't really come across people that haven't seen Van Halen, right? But I mean, people are there to just have a good time, right? And you know, maybe they miss Eddie, maybe they miss the music, they want to see it live. We try to play that stuff as close to the record as we can, and that's where it kind of goes back to what I was saying, like whether or not you're doing a Van Halen tribute or you're doing a Cyndi Lauper tribute, okay, sure. Whatever tribute it is, right? You have to play the songs like they're on the. You can't. There's no room for winging it. Whether it's Blue Oyster Cult that you're tributing or, you know, Dio, right? Or anybody, even if it's like some rap band or whatever, I don't know, right? You have to show people, because those people are there. They know those songs, right? And like you were saying earlier, they run that track in their head, right?
Yes.
And it's almost like me, where like if I went and saw a Van Halen tribute, and actually I remember, you know, I brought up Joe Suma before. That's kind of like how I met Joe. He was in his band around here called Unchained NJ, right? I think we were called Unchained, but they played locally around here when I was in one of my other bands, and I went and saw him. And like when I saw him, like you can't help it. You love this stuff, and like you're running the music in your head. Like, all right, here's he nailed the solo. Oh, here's that. Oh, he got the licks right. And like that's where I'm like, okay, this dude does his homework. He has done his homework. And I respect that, right? And that's kind of like how we present it. Like there's no room for winging stuff. I mean, do I play everything note for note, you know, with a forensic microscope on this stuff? Maybe not, right? But you will recognize the solos. You know what I mean? And it's important. And that's kind of like the biggest feedback we've gotten, where people, you know, tell us that, you know, they know that you've done that work, and they respect it. They appreciate it. So, they're there just to have a good time and, listen to these songs that they love. And like we do a lot of deep, because we have, a 40 plus set list every night. Of course, every night we do all the hits, Jump, I'll Wait, or whatever, whatever, what else would be a hit? I can't even remember, right? But we also do like deep tracks like Girl Gone Bad, or, Dirty Movies, or, we've done Summer Nights. We've done, we're always learning new stuff just to keep the thing fresh,
So I think it's fascinating, and good on you and your band for having that dedication to want to present as near accurate as you can, as far as your capabilities as musicians go, in replicating the music. And if people can appreciate that, that's fine. So I've just got another little question. So how does your singer go from singing Dave era stuff to Sammy stuff? What process? Does your singer have to go through to do that? Because that's, no disrespect to you being the guitar player.
No, I know.
But that's a different kettle of fish altogether, Jim.
Yeah. First, I gotta say, like, we don't dress up like them. We don't dress up like them, and like we don't put on spandex or anything.
Good.
We've been fighting. We talk about that a lot. Like, should we do it? Should we not? But we haven't done it, right? So in terms of my singer, we'll do, like I said, there's a 40 plus song set list, but like only like only maybe like 3 to 5 songs will be Sammy Hagar era, right?
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So, and those are towards like the end of the night, and some of them, some of them we tune down. So we play almost everything in E flat, like a half step down. So, So a lot of the Hagar stuff is in standard tuning, so it helps him a little bit because he's not singing it in standard. Right?
Okay.
He's singing it a half step down. So it's a bit easier for him, right? And the other thing is that like the backing vocals are fantastic. Like I had my last bass player, Jeff Kamen, had fantastic backing vocals, and my current guy, Luis, has fantastic backing vocals. And that's the thing, like when we Jeff ended up leaving the band, and we were like, okay, we got to find somebody, but it's like you not only have to find a bass player that can do it, but you got to find somebody that can sing that stuff too. You know what I mean? It's a little tricky, But that's what happens with like the singing, is that we play it a half step down from like what it is on the album. This way, we don't have to change guitars so often. It also helps in that regard, but it also helps in that he doesn't have to sing it in that high of a key. And like, as of right now, we haven't really done stuff like Dreams or anything yet, which is just in the stratosphere, Like right now, like the stuff that we do, from the Hagar era, just the top of my head, every night we do Pound Cake. We do the live version of from Live Without a Net. We do the live version of One Way to Rock, right? And then we throw in like Top of the World one night, another night Runaround. Another night, we've done Summer Nights, we've done, Best of Both Worlds, all that stuff, But we're always learning new stuff to new songs to like add to the set. So people come and see us, like people might come and see us like out of like 3 shows. They might come to 2 of them. They don't want to. I don't want them seeing the exact same songs. You know what I mean? So we always change it up.
So who interacts with your audience when you guys are performing? Is that something that you leave completely up to your lead singer, or do you have a role to play being the guitar player? Are you introducing songs, kicking back with the crowd, or
that's a great question. My singer does most of the talking, but I've been known, like in this there's video of me at that last Memorial Van Halen thing that we did last year, where like, I take a few minutes and I talk about Eddie and what he meant to us and how I met all my friends through Eddie, through the music of Van Halen, and like, how it like how it like completely changed my life. Like that's why I play guitar. That's and because of that, I've met all these people, whether it's like my friends from high school or people like Craig Stofko or Rob Johnson or Pete Carucci or somebody, David Nesdahl, even so I kind of do some talking. I'm not shy. I'll go up there and I'll talk and I'll tell people, like for Beautiful Girls, I'll tell them like this was the first song I ever heard from Van Halen, and it changed my life in a sense. So
yeah. And people want to hear that, Jim. People want to hear.
I think people want to hear. Yeah, they want to hear like
Yeah.
stories and what like something means to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Definitely. So we're going to talk about gear and all that a little bit later on, folks. I promise. But you're talking about these guys, Craig Stafko. You're talking about Jimmy and all. So and yourself and all these great. All these great guitar players, because I've seen their stuff, and you go to this EVH-Con,
yeah,
and you got all these gunslingers there, Jim. Yeah. So for the folks that aren't aware of the EVH-Con thing and what it is, that might be watching, we get a lot of people that watch our videos back on rerun, Jim. So. Fill the people in that may not be aware of what this is and what it is and what you guys do. Please tell us.
Okay, well, a while back, like I told you, I saw Joe Suma playing, many, many years ago, and I kind of like lost track of him. Then around like, when was it? Probably around the time when I started Halen, when I started my band, because when I was in Megahertz, I used to play these Sur guitars, right? And they had locking tuners, but they didn't have a Floyd Rose. They had a regular standard trem, right? So I was looking for a guitar that had, a Floyd Rose at the time, right? And I was looking on eBay, and I came across this guitar that was being sold by this guy Unchained NJ on eBay, right? And this guitar, it was a black USA Stealth. But it was the difference was that this guitar did not have the regular inlays. It had the block inlays, right? And the block inlays only went on the gray ones. This was a black one, right? And they made 8 of them. I found out. Suma was telling me they made 8 of them. So I ended up buying this guitar from Suma, all right? But at the time, I didn't know it was Suma. And so I recognized, like I said, I recognized the Unchained NJ. I'm like, hey, dude, were you in a band called Unchained? And like, he's like, oh, yeah. So it turns out that he, he still runs a music store in Greenwich, Riverside. It's called Greenwich Music, right? So I went down there and, I grabbed the guitar from him. And like, we were talking and stuff. And like, I went down there again and hung out with them some other night. And I was telling him how some friends of mine, we get together every once in a while, like, I don't know, every 2 months or something, right? And we go to my buddy's house, my buddy Kevin McNally and David Fault. Had to mention them, give them some credit.
That's the way.
Yeah. And we go there, and like all 3 of us were hard Van Halen fans, right? And like there was a drum set there. So one guy's playing guitar, the other guy's playing the drums, one guy's singing, we're going through all this stuff just for fun, right? Then we go out and get something to eat, come back and jam some more. And Suma was like, hey man, like we should do that. We should do like a Van Halen con. I was like, yeah, man. You think we could get some people? He's like, yeah. So we, like I said, like I told you in the green room, like we had the very first one. I think it was 8 years ago, because this is going to be the 7th one, and we had to skip a year, right? Yes. So we had the very first one, and like I said, it was me and like my 2 buddies that I just mentioned, right, at Suma's store, and maybe like 3 or 4 other people. There's a picture I have somewhere of everybody that went there, and one of them was Stofko, and that's how I ended up meeting Stofko. And the next year we had more people, and that's where I met John Conklin and stuff, right? And I think and David Nesdahl and the kid Nick Amendolara and all that. And so we've been doing that. You know, we've been trying to do it like every year, and it is challenging. Like you were saying, like, you know, there's a room. You know, like somebody most of the time it's Craig. He'll bring his rig and we'll play through something, right? I bring my Kemper just for for other people to like mess around with. But like, you know, there's currently I bring my band, like my drummer, right? My drummer plays, you know, because he pretty much knows everything, you know, because we do a lot, right? And there's a bass player. Last year was my bass player at the time, Jeff Kamen, and we everybody gets up there and like, you know, plays a song. And, you know, you're in there, you know, a room full of, you know, Van Halen fans. So, but it's, you know, it might seem daunting, but everybody there is really cool. Everybody there is really cool and supportive. You know what I mean? And
I've seen a lot of footage. I think I've seen all the footage I can over the years, Jim, of the EVH-Con, and you know, it's been fascinating. You know, watching the clips. Carlos, another good friend of our channel, he's been there a couple of times, and and obviously Dave Nesdall, you know, before he passed away, was there, and you know the respect, you know, that a lot of people gave him, but it just, you know, it fascinates me that you guys have got, you know, this EVH-Con thing. I think it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm convinced of it, and I was just only having a chat to John Conklin, I think, a couple of months ago, when he was kind of hoping that it would too, you know, because people are going to come along and see what you guys are doing. How do you guys determine who's going to play what? So is that all done beforehand, Jim, or like if someone turns up and you've already played Panama and they only know how to play Panama, will you play Panama 20 times during the day, or do you just only play it once?
Fantastic question. Now, here's the thing: is that we kind of had that thing where in the first couple of cons, where if a song was played, right, that you couldn't play it again. But like, there's people coming in from like Florida, and there's people coming in from, you know, other states, and like, you know, there really wasn't ahead of time. There wasn't a sign-up sheet like Jim's going to play this and Doug's going to play this, right? You would just show up and you would play it. And then like we had a bit of a problem where, like, you know, so a gentleman wanted to play a certain song and it had already been played, but he doesn't really know anything else, right? So at that point, this was like maybe three years ago. At that point, I talked to Joe like for the next one. I'm like, dude, if there's repeats, just let people play it. You know, if we're gonna hear Panama 20 times, then let them play it. You know what I mean? Let them just go up there and play it. It's really for them. It's not for us. You know what I mean? It's really for them to go up there and play with a real band, play Van Halen with a real band, a real singer through a real PA. You know what I mean? A real amp, you know?
And thank you for saying that, because I think that's the way that you want to market it, Jim. Yeah. You know, you want to be able to, you know, give guys an opportunity, bedroom players, you know, like myself, who've been playing, you know, EVH licks for 20 years. You know, they might sort of say, well, look, you know, they're going to make a goal. I'm going to make a point of at least playing one song, and I'm going to jam and get up with Jim at the next EVH-Con and have a crack. And sell, and obviously the guy that owns the music store, maybe sell some gear too.
Oh yeah. No, you know, Adam Reaver comes in sometimes and like, you know, does like Floyd upgrades and stuff in the back, and it's just a great time. It's just a great time. Yeah. You know, and Scott Smith, when I first got on the internet, do you know who Scott Smith is?
No.
Do you know who Scott Smith is?
No.
Scott Smith, he's like the godfather of Van Halen guitar replicas, right? Everybody that takes a replica around here, you know, like owes it to Scott Smith. He's got the most amazing collection in his basement, right? So when I first got on the internet, the first person I came across, because I was on the Van Halen mailing list. The first thing I searched, I had just connected to the internet. First thing I typed in was Van Halen.
Van Halen.
Yeah, that's not even a joke, right? And it came up with this VHML. And And Conklin remembers me from there, but I don't, you know what I mean? But it was just this system where you would get emails of like topics, and every time you responded, it would go to everybody and it would show up in their inbox as an email. It was before chats and chat rooms and all that, right?
Yeah.
And
those email lists. Yep, I remember them.
Yeah, he was on America Online. I remember like messaging Scott, and we talk like all the time and stuff like that. And then when I got on the VHML, I remember in 1998, right? This is around the time with Van Halen 3, right? And there was this thing where, people wanted Dave back around that time. There was that whole aborted reunion, which was a disaster, right? And I felt like, for me, I like Van Halen 3. I do. There's a lot of songs on there I like. I like Year to the Day, Once, From Afar. All that stuff is great to me, right? But it seemed like there was some kind of like effort in the VHML to not support this third singer. Like, it could have been anybody. They thought there was like a feeling there. It could just be time making me think this, right? But I remember thinking at the time that people were not accepting Gary for any reason, thinking that if they didn't make this work, they would just get Dave back, right? So around like 98, they launched a tour, and I saw them like maybe the third show at Madison Square Garden, right? And you can see me in the front row there because I kind of snuck up in the front row. And it was amazing because they had the huge screen in the back, right? And like Eddie came out like 3 feet away from me, right? And they were just amazing. They were doing, Gary would do the Sammy stuff. He would do the the Hagar stuff, right? I'm the one. I mean, he did I'm the one. And so I went and saw that show, but then the tour started not doing so well. And you knew this because they got rid of the screens. That was too expensive to carry around, right? And suddenly I log in one day, and they're talking about how they are going to have this raffle, okay, and for just the VHM, and it's going to be for an autographed Wolfgang, and you can pick the color. I think people might remember, if you're on the VHML, you might remember this, right? So I was like, whatever. I mean, I don't win anything. So, and then they give you, like, every week they would give you an update, and like the entry window was like a month. So after about into the third week, right, they showed how many entries they had. I forget how you entered, like sent in a postcard or something. You had to do something, like send in a postcard or whatever, right? And I noticed that they only had 25 entries. Yeah, I'll never forget it. So I'm like, I got a good shot at this. So I went and got like 10 or 15 postcards. I forget what you had to do. It wasn't, you had to mail it in. This was like, very early internet. So, I sent in my entries, right? And I remember I was driving home from my buddy's wedding, right? And I get this, I was busy the whole day because I was in the wedding party, right? I was busy the whole day. And, I checked my phone because I'm driving home from New Hampshire. And I checked my phone, and they tell me that I've won. I won. I couldn't believe it, right? And they asked me what color I wanted, right? So I go, I'm like, what color? This was a PV Wolfgang, right? And so I talked to somebody, I forget who, right? And they I initially asked maybe for an amber, but they sent me a red one, right? Oh. And the package came, and it was like from 5150 Studios, right? Yeah. I have the packing slip somewhere. It was from 5150 Studios, and there was a phone number, right? And I opened it up. I have pictures. I can send you pictures of this thing. I opened it up, and it was a red Wolfgang, and then on it, it was signed in like silver marker. Eddie Van Halen VH-98, right? And I had that for many years.
Wow.
And then what happened was I right around like with the market crash here in 2009, I became unemployed. I work in finance, right? And I was unemployed for like over a year or two, really, right? And just to pay like my property taxes and stuff, I ended up selling the guitar, right? I had to sell it. And I sold it to a collector, and then a couple of again, this was like 98. Well, no, this was probably around like 2013, but I don't think I had a cell phone I had a BlackBerry. I didn't have a really great camera, and so I never really had a picture of it, or maybe I did, and maybe it was on an old phone that died. But just recently I asked somebody, I put a post out there on some Van Halen forum telling the story, and I knew somebody had to have this guitar, right? And sure enough, I told them the story and what it looked like, and sure enough, all I wanted was a picture of it. And sure enough, people sent, the person sent me a picture of it.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, I ended up having to sell it, many years ago. But until then, it just sat under my bed,
Wow. Wow.
You look hurt.
What a story. What, oh my gosh. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ring that phone number?
Oh, yeah, I did. I gotta tell you, I did ring that number, and somebody answered, and I hung up. I couldn't.
Oh,
yeah.
Was it Eddie?
No, I don't think it was Eddie. it was probably like maybe it was some number at 51. Maybe it was Matt Bruck. I don't know, but it wasn't Eddie. But I kind of hung up. I doubt Eddie would answer the phone anyway. Yeah. I have it somewhere. I have it upstairs in my drawer somewhere. So when I sold the guitar, I kept the slip just for a keepsake or whatever.
Next time when you come on and do part 2 with us, send some photos, Jim, and we'll put those photos up, and we'll show them on the live stream for people when you come back and do part 2. I just want to go back a little bit over what you just said, So I only saw Van Halen once. I saw Van Halen with Gary Cherone too, here on that tour.
I remember you guys saying it, and because I've watched some old episodes of the show, right?
Yes.
And it never occurred to me, but you guys are so right. Like all you had was like Live Without a Net for many years. That's all you had.
That's all we had, brother.
Yes.
That's all we had.
I've seen Van Halen, I don't know, 30 times.
Yeah, well, that was my question. That was my question I was going to ask you. You've seen probably the 3 versions of Van Halen, but I'm personally, and my co-host Brad, we're personally wrapped that Ed was playing. He was on fire on that tour. But I just want to go back to your theory about how the Van Halen community themselves sabotaged Gary Cherone, because Dave Nesdell said something like that to me too. I remember Dave Nesdell thought that.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never really articulated that thing until now. Wow. Okay.
Well, yeah. I think it's a valid theory because I've heard it before. That the Van Halen community themselves, from the get-go, tore that apart a little bit. So I'd be interested to see what people in the chat think about that observation or this thought that we've got or that we've just had. And if you're watching a replay, also I'd be, and I'm sure Jim would be too, interested in whether or not you think the Van Halen community had some role to play in where Gary ended up ultimately with Van Halen.
Mm-hmm. And then, I'm very grateful for that tour. I'll tell you why. Because again, with the VHML, they wanted to the community, especially the management, really, of the band, because like Scotty Ross was the tour manager, and he was on there, He was very active. I mean, anybody that's on the VHML would know this, right? And they had this thing where they were going to give away free backstage passes on that tour to anybody on the VHML, but they needed coordinators in every state to coordinate this. Like if you were in the VHML, like in Connecticut or something, right? And so I quickly signed up to be the coordinator for Connecticut, right? And I remember when they came to Hartford, right? They took us backstage, and my buddy Joe Vale that I mentioned before about that band, right? I took him. You got 2 tickets, so I went to the will call window, right? And like you being like the coordinator, it was no big deal. All you had to do was just kind of like check people off on your list and give them their tickets, right? And their passes. That was it. Okay. So so we were lined up on the side of the arena. It was an amphitheater, really. And they finally called us in through this door, right? And I had snuck in a camera. Okay. I snuck in a disposable camera, right? Because they said you couldn't take any personal pictures. Okay.
Okay.
And you were going to be given this one picture with the whole group with the band, right?
Sure.
So because I was like the coordinator, I was first in line. I was right in the front, right? Yeah. So out walked the guys, all 4 of them, right? And my buddy's like, dude, there's Eddie. I'm like, oh. Right? And so they call you in, right? And my buddy and I, we had this plan that I went and shook and talked to everybody, told them how I love the new album, and I do.
Yep.
And I go, when I'm next to Eddie, because my buddy was right behind me, he was second in line. I go, I gave him the camera. I go, when I'm next to Eddie, you take that picture, dude. I don't care what happens. Let him throw us out. I got that picture, right? And so I'm like, I meet Michael. Mike, I can't tell you, I'm a huge fan. Alex, please, you're a drum guy, whatever, And I got to Eddie and I told him, I basically said like, that I love the music. Thanks for everything. You changed my life in a way, right? And I stood right next to him, and my buddy brought up the camera to take the picture, and the security guard was like, "Hey, you with the camera!" Right? And you could see, like, if I showed you the picture, I blew up the picture like poster size, me and Eddie, right? And in the picture, I look goofy because my eyes are wide open because my buddy about to get beat up. Right? And but what he did this cool move where he did this one motion where he brought the camera up, snapped it, put it in his pocket, stood right next to me for the group photo, and the guy couldn't come through. The security couldn't come through because they were going to take the group photo, right? So we're done with the whole, we're done with meeting them and stuff. And I go, dude, did you get the picture? He's like, I got it. And then I went like the next day. I mean, this is back when you had to go somewhere to get your pictures developed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember those days.
I went to like this like 1 hour photo place near my house. And
you were waiting, and you waited.
You
didn't go home, did you? You waited.
I drove around for an hour, and then I went and then it was a passable picture, but not the best. I mean, Eddie looks great. I look like a doofus, but it's me and Eddie. You know what I mean? And then, that's when I blew it up to like poster size. It's up in my room. And then I also met him in 2004, and in 2004, like Ed was not good. At the beginning of that tour, I had like rose-colored glasses on too, right?
Sure.
I didn't want to believe that Eddie. One thing I want to ask the people in this chat is, I've only seen this once. I've never seen it on the internet, right? I've never seen it on YouTube. But one of these like American weekly or maybe daily entertainment shows. It was either like Entertainment Tonight. These guys will know what I'm talking about, right? Or something, or like Extra. They did a report on this Van Halen tour, okay? And they were interviewing Hagar. They were showing the stage before the tour. Please, I want somebody to validate that this has happened, right? That maybe you guys have seen this too, because it was scary, right? Where so they were interviewing Hagar, and they were showing the stage, and Eddie was like, his scraggly self with no shirt and stuff. at the very end of the episode, right? They showed Eddie was in the hallway and he had a Wolfgang over him, right? He was playing a Wolfgang, and he raised it up, and on the side of the neck, instead of dots, right? He had stickers 1, 3, 5, 7, 12, 15 to tell him the fret markers. That's when I knew something was up. You know what I'm saying? That there was a Wolfgang that had the fret markers like that. Now, I hadn't really seen any pictures of a guitar like that, but I saw it with my own. You will not find this on YouTube. I haven't seen it on YouTube.
Okay, Keith Campbell, who also has the middle name of Van Halen Campbell, who is one of our resident EVH-ologists, says he remembers that.
No,
he remembers it. He
Yeah.
said it was on ET.
Yes. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Keith. Thank you. Because I've talked to my friends about this and nobody has seen it. I'm like, I know it happened. And
Wow.
it was just scary. And like, if you look, you'll see pictures of that guitar. I don't know if it's the right angle because you have to have a picture of it over Ed's shoulder. You know what I'm saying? To see that. But it was on the side, instead of fret markers on the side of the neck, it was 1, 3, 5, 7, 12, 15, and so on. And anyway, so around that time, I went with a friend of mine. You can actually see us in this Hartford. No, it wasn't Hartford. It was in Worcester. There was 2 nights in Worcester, a Saturday and a Sunday. So we went up to Worcester, Massachusetts, which is like, I don't know, 2 hours from here, 2.5. And we stayed in a hotel and we went to both nights. And both nights we were in the rings because that stage looked like the VH rings. And there was people, you know what I'm talking about for that tour?
Yeah.
So we were so psyched. Both nights we were in the rings. Okay. And so the first night we go there to get our passes, right? We sign in, and I forget what it was, but it said, so they gave us our tickets, and it said ring right. Okay. Meaning the right ring, the right side ring. Okay.
Sure.
We thought it was as you're looking at the stage, right?
Okay.
We're on Eddie's side, man. We're in that ring on Eddie's side. Hell yeah. Right? But when we get there, they're like, no. This is from the stage. So if you're on the stage, right? So we're in Michael Anthony. Look, okay, we're in Michael Anthony's, right?
Okay.
And I'll tell you, it was so much better. Michael, like they're running around you, because they've got like those walkways. You're in the ring, but they're running around you, high-fiving you. We're talking to Michael Anthony, right? The guy that I went with was in my band at the time, the Gamma Rays, right? And he gave Michael Anthony a stick. Michael Anthony was running around. I think it was during Best of Both Worlds, right? He was running around, and I had a camera. I snuck in a camera at this point too. I sneak in cameras.
Good.
Crucifying. Right? So he held up. He held up the pass. Right? Not the pass. He held up my band sticker, right? And Michael Anthony took it and slapped it on his bass. I went out of my mind, right? I went to take a picture of it, right? They tossed me out. They threw me out of the show. I had to wait in the parking lot, right? And I never got the picture. And at this point, the show was like maybe 75% through, right? And for years, I've scoured the internet. That show is on YouTube, right? And and the whole show's on there. But during that time where I think that happened, they don't focus on Michael Anthony.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Just hold that thought because we've got somebody that's going to jump in the stream and he's going to
all right.
He's going to share some laughs with us, I'm sure. But all credit to being thrown out of a Van Halen concert.
Yeah.
Hey, Johnny.
Man.
Hey, Johnny.
Johnny Vonvis.
I was hoping you'd show up, man. All right. There you go. Where you been, man?
Good. What's going on?
Dude, you went to
I
dinner?
caught some of it. I caught some of it, some of the Jimmy Mayhem.
Oh yeah. But then I ended up, so I had tickets the next night, right, in the same ring. So we show up, and like the security guys are like, "Hey, dude," they remember me from the night before, right? They're like, "Dude, you know," and like I wasn't causing any trouble. I was just minding my own business. I'm trying to just take a picture. Meanwhile, there's girls next to me that are taking pictures. They're not getting tossed.
No.
Gee, I wonder
No.
why.
So anyway, so I go the second night, right? Oh, so let me backtrack a little bit. So at this point, I was on VH links, and I wrote this whole thing on Michael Anthony's side. I'm like, dudes, I know you guys want to be on Eddie's side. The party is over at Michael Anthony's side, right? I gave all the Michael's there. He's high fiving you. He's talking to you. All this stuff, right? And so I went there the second night, and it was, it was uneventful in a sense, like I didn't get tossed or anything. I couldn't take any pictures or anything. But fast forward a couple of days later, I went and saw them again with that same guy in New Jersey, and I had like these what was it? Like the meet and greet where you could see the sound check, right? You guys remember this? You pay to see the sound check.
Yeah.
So they snuck us in, and we're over on Michael Anthony's side, right? Because they just kind of like let us in during the sound check. And Michael Anthony comes out, he's like sound checking. We're like, Mikey, come over here, man. And he goes, my friends in the gamma rays. I go, you remember us? He goes, yeah, man. He goes, I read what you wrote. I go, what do you mean? What? He goes, I read what you wrote on VH links about like my side, man. Thank you. I go, my mind, I was blown away. I'm like, of course. He like read what I wrote about, like how great that side is, and that's where you should be. That's where the party is. And I'm like, yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. And then so we went, but right around that time, like you could tell like there was something wrong with Ed. In the beginning of the story, I mentioned how I had like rose-colored glasses. I didn't want to believe it. Like they were in Philadelphia a couple of days before I saw them, and these pictures came out, with him with the samurai hair and stuff, and like the torn apart boots.
When the samurai hair, when that part of the show, Ed was on. That was it. It's on.
Yeah, that's what
you knew that's when he was on. It was like, it's on. He's got that samurai thing going on.
I heard this one story where, again, I saw him in Worcester that weekend, and Worcester is close to Boston. And I heard this story, forget where, but like it was, I heard it from many people where like Ed showed up at this music store. I think there's this big chain. I think it was a Daddy's Junky Music. Conks, you remember Daddy's Junky Music? Yeah. I think it was a Daddy's Junky Music up there, right? And Eddie showed up, and people thought he was a homeless guy. He just picked up a guitar off the rack and like was playing it, right? And people thought he was like just some homeless guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember at the Meadowlands, the first night, I'm pretty sure it was, I don't remember. Keith might remember. I'm sure he was there. But they played 2 nights there. And one night it was so bad. It was like I was angry when I left. I think it might have been the first night that it was really, really embarrassingly bad. Almost to the point it was like you couldn't even tell what song. Only way you could tell was because of Alex and Mike, just, the rhythm section. That's how you could tell what it was. But it was just like he was just that bad. It was embarrassingly bad. No. The next night he was much better, up until the samurai hair came on, and then it was, it was over.
And guys, it was so bad that like, okay, so that's 2004. Then I saw him again in 2007. I saw him like I think 3 times in 2007, and it was a hair better.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
It was just a hair better. So when 2012 rolled around, right? Okay, I almost didn't go see 2012. Okay, and then they released this video of them doing that. Conch, you'll remember they were doing this like warm-up show at the LA Forum or something, right? Staples Center or whatever it is, right? They did a warm-up show for like friends and family, like a friends and family.
Oh yeah,
show.
at the Forum, at the LA Forum.
Yeah, it was like a full dress rehearsal.
Right.
And they released a video of that, and that's when you were like, this guy is back. That's when I was like, and then I got tickets like that night to see him in 2012, right? But yeah, you know, it's like those dark days. You can see me in the crowd in all those videos. I can't watch that 2004 tour at all.
No, that whole period from like 2000 to 2007, almost 2008. It's just like any of that stuff. I don't even pay attention.
Yeah.
I don't want to see. I don't want to see it. You know what I mean? And the shame of it is when you Google Eddie Van Halen, half the time that picture comes up of him with his like, the teeth are rotting out. He looks like he's like, the crypt keeper.
Yeah, that paparazzi shot.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I wish they would somebody would buy that. And just
I know, just like get it off the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember 2007. I was like you. I had my arms folded. I was just like, because I thought like you, a hair better than 2004.
Yeah.
And he had that meltdown at the Meadowlands where he threw the monitor. I sat there with my arms folded. I was at that one and I was just like, oh my God, you know what I mean? What the hell's going on here? But it did improve. And I thought in 2015 that was. He was completely back. I just thought I enjoyed that tour the most out of all of them in the 2000s. I thought 2000s.
Yeah, what a great set list.
Exactly. You got it.
What a great set list. And for that tour, John knows the story. For that tour, I was scouring like what are these ticket agencies, whatever, like StubHub or whatever, right? And they had I wanted to go to the Meadows in Hartford, right? And they had row A, seat 1 and 2, like right in front of Eddie, the best seats, right? Mm-hmm. They were like 3,000 a piece, right? So I'm watching these as they go as the time for months. I'm watching this; they're not selling, and every like month or two they drop them. They went from 3,000, right, to like 2,500, then 2,000, okay? And then maybe like around 3 weeks before the gig, right? It went to 1,000 a seat, right? And I'm just crazy enough to do that, really, okay? and Cox has seen the video where so I ended up getting the seat. I took my nephew and we were like right in front of Eddie, right?
Wow.
And there's a famous thing around my friends where there was a security guard there. There was an Asian security guard there, and I was talking to him. He's like, "Hey man, how'd you get these seats?" Right? I'm like, "Oh, just got them off of StubHub." I waited, I watched it, and eventually I had to pull the trigger because I figured if it went any lower, people would just buy them, right?
Sure.
So and so I'm talking to the guy before the gig. Kenny Wayne Shepherd's playing or whatever. And then, like, again, I'm not bothering anybody. I'm right on the rail.
You're never bothering anybody, Jim.
I mind my own business, Con. I don't bother anybody, right? And so they come out, and you can see this. You can see this on my YouTube. They come out, and I got like the best footage. Eddie comes out. They start up, Light Up the Sky, right? And around that time, like I had my camera like this, right? Just like this. I'm not blocking anybody. Okay. I don't have the camera in anybody's. Meanwhile, like I said before, there's other people next to me like this with their cameras, right? So I had the camera like this, just like, I'm watching, Eddie, but I'm also making sure that my camera is in view, right? And I'm just minding my own business again. And the guy tells me that no filming. Right? I go, what? What about all the? Don't film. I'm like, so I turned it off. You can see it, or you can see it in my YouTube. And so I'm like, what? This guy's telling me to not. There's like all these people behind me or next to me film. I even told him, what about these people? Right? And so I kind of like try it again. I'm like, okay, forget it. So I raised it. I tried this like 3 or 4 times to the point where the guy threatened to throw me out. And remember, I had my nephew with me, who at the time was, 11 or 12, right? And meanwhile, everybody else is filming. I'm not bothering anybody. There's no flash. There's no flash to blind anybody, right? And honestly, like my whole idea was that I was going to be there to film the whole show, like in the front. And somebody did that exact same thing a couple of nights later at Jones Beach from Wolfgang's side, filmed the entire show front row from Wolfgang's side, right? And that was my whole plan in the beginning, getting those tickets. Like if I knew I wasn't going to film, maybe I would have gotten like other tickets, But I don't know, that's it's like a running gag amongst my friends, that night with like the security guy. Conch, are you on mute? Are you on mute? Or am I on mute?
I'm on mute. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
It's funny when you think of it, though, that the internet, like, not only did it ruin the record industry, you know what I mean? It's like everybody just steals music and passes it around the internet. But it also ruined that for them. They remember back in the day, you have to stick a tape recorder down your pants to try to get an audio of a show. I remember Monsters of Rock. I got a little mini recorder in there, and I was able to record part of Van Halen set on micro cassettes. But I remember you
didn't know what any stages looked like. You didn't know the set list. You didn't know anything.
Exactly. They used to pat you down and everything when you go in.
There was something to that. There was something to that.
So 2015, like when they did that to you, it's like that was pretty much the end of it, because now it's just it's a free for all. They don't even care.
I'm like, why is this guy bothering me? I didn't.
I know.
And if you look at my YouTube, there's about minute long. The first one is almost like 1.5 songs before the guy started causing trouble to me, right? And really, like I would raise it for like 1.5 minutes and then lower it. So I got some footage, right, that I wanted, like, when Eddie was doing like some like his solo, or he was playing like the solo to Hot for Teacher. But it's like, why are these other people like what they can film? It just was not fair.
It was crazy. Face, Jimmy. He just didn't like your face, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
I can understand that. I mean, if that's the case, I can understand that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It figures though, right?
But yeah, that's my thing with like Van Halen. I mean, I've seen my first show was August 1st, 86. I saw them like the last night at the Meadowlands. Oh, that's the other thing. Were you there that night?
Yeah, I was.
Oh man. Yeah, I had nosebleeds, but I was just, I mean, I think behind me was like the Brendan Byrne Arena wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like the last seat,
I got a Michael Anthony pick that night.
Huh?
I got a Michael Anthony pick that night. I was pretty close that night. A lot of them were just a blur, because I think there were like 4 or 5 nights at the Meadowlands, if I remember correctly.
I think it was 4 nights. Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure I was at all of them. But it's like I remember Mark. They wore the Jets jersey. Eddie was wearing the Jets jersey '99 one night, and I remember Leslie West came out and they did Mississippi Queen and stuff like that. Yeah.
Andrew, you're like this. Live Without a Net was shot maybe 30 minutes from here. I didn't go to that show because around that time they were saying that I saw them in New Jersey, because around that time what happened was Judas Priest had played that arena in New Haven, and they tore up the seats.
I remember here.
Yeah, they tore up the seats, and they were saying that they might not have concerts there anymore. So I'm like, I'm not going to take this. This was my very first Van Halen concert, right, in '86. And I'm like, I'm not missing this. So I went to the Meadowlands, and then they ended up having Live Without a Net. I mean, we didn't know it was Live Without a Net. We just thought it was Hartford,
Sure.
I mean, New Haven. And there was 2 nights in New Haven. I remember I was at my buddy's band practice, and all those guys were going, and I wasn't going. But I was like, whatever, it was fine. But then they released, Live Without a Net, and, the rest is history,
Correct.
Yeah.
I wish they'd, we always talk about this stuff like remaster, or, but Live Without a Net should really get like a cleaned up version put out. I would love for them to restore it with Eddie's complete guitar solo with the Fury release.
Show, man.
That little thing he does before Fury release, that little A minor.
Good Enough's not in there. Good Enough's not in there.
Good Enough. And then they opened with You Really Got Me. That was how the set opened. And then they did One Way to Rock. So the show opened with You Really Got Me.
Yes.
But I guess they didn't, because it was a Dave thing and they didn't want to put that in there. But I mean, I would love to them just to release it as it was, you know what I mean? Without the edits and stuff like that. You could see, like, when the guitar solo is, you could see where they edited, like a kind of a hard cut where they cut off all the beginning of the solo. But
absolutely. Yeah.
If they did that though, it's a ticket for printing money. If they did that, if they did this package and released it in a DVD, Blu-ray, and digital download,
Yeah.
and had it available on CD or even vinyl, which has become like in vogue again, it would just be just imagine it'll be probably a number one.
Yeah.
I think so. You know what? Listen, so like probably from 2004 at least on, I'm sure they videotaped and recorded audio of every show. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that live show, the one they did the live album from, that was probably just off the board. They probably had like, you know, Pro Tools or something. They probably recorded it live on the Pro Tools. So, you know, but
I don't know if you remember, but like a while back, I mean, only like a couple of months, you know, Hagar has that Instagram thing, The Other Half or whatever.
Yeah.
We released this video. I think it was of what's that song? Not Enough or whatever. You know that? Okay, something off of Balance.
Uh-huh.
And it was it was a professionally shot footage that I've never seen before, and it was like in like I don't know, I think it was somewhere in California, right? And it's like, where's that show?
Right.
You know,
I think they have them all recorded, but the problem was, like, especially the later tours, you know, like 2015 would have been a great one to release a video of, you know, because the band was really tight and everything like that. But obviously Dave's voice was not, you know what I mean? And Dave didn't seem to care. He didn't try to sing like the record. He just did whatever he did, you know, but I wouldn't even mind if they went back in the studio and just had him recut. I don't care if the real version's on YouTube and people are saying, oh, they went back in and they fixed it. Every live album is Kiss Alive is overdubbed in the studio. You know, Kiss Alive 2, the whole album was like recreated in the studio, I think, you know what I mean? So every live album, Cheap Trick, live at the Budokan, wasn't really live at the Budo, all live at the Budokan, you know?
Get Your Ya-Ya's Out by the Stones, another album, you know, that they've done in the studio.
Yeah, exactly.
Frampton Comes Alive, there's oodles of them.
Right, exactly. And Cream, right? You know, they're saying Crossroads, right? There was overdubs on that, right? You know what I mean? So, so
yeah, it's fine with me, man. Yeah.
I think Keith said I couldn't understand why he chose Tokyo Dome. I think it's simply because he was speaking Japanese and he wanted people to know that he could speak Japanese. Although, if you remember, Eddie said he asked somebody in Japan, "Do you understand what he's saying?" A Japanese person, and they were like, "No, no idea what he's saying."
Oh my God, so great.
Yeah, I thought that was funny when Eddie was like, they said they didn't even know, had no clue what he's saying. But
well, we don't understand.
Yeah. Because that was I was surprised at that one because that was and they had Bob Clearmountain, who was like the, you know, one of the greatest mixers, engineers, producers of all time. You know what I mean? And he, you know, it's like, what did Eddie used to say? You can't polish a turd. You know, that was that one was that's a tough one there. So, but I wish they would. I would accept it if they went in and just had Dave redo some vocals on a live one, just to have a good live concert video and like, you know, 4K or something like that of Eddie. You know what I mean? I mean, there's so much stuff that they could do, right? So much.
I don't know if you guys. There's two things. I don't know if you guys heard this, but this was I heard this about a year ago, and Billy Sheehan confirmed it a couple of weeks ago on his Facebook that he has a professionally shot show.
I heard that,
from Eat 'Em and Smile.
Yeah.
Okay. What? Oh my God. Right. And I listen to Eddie Trunk a lot, almost every day. And he was talking about these Kiss things that hit YouTube, like this just recently, like a couple of weeks ago. This rare footage of Kiss in like 77. I'm not a huge Kiss fan, but he was saying that he heard from his circle that some stuff like that is going to be released for Van Halen. I don't know. Yeah, I take that for what it's worth. He heard that from his circle that stuff like that is going to be released by Van Halen.
Yeah,
not by Van Halen, of Van Halen.
I got the vibe from somewhere that this fall we're gonna get something from Van Halen. So,
oh man,
I don't know if it's just a remastered or something, but something this fall.
He's something Alex has been working on. So, because we found out that Alex is in control or in charge of the archive, isn't he? So this is something that Alex has done. Do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure he's involved, or either that or the record label. It could be something is you know, like a remastered, or it could be something as simple as that wouldn't take anybody any time to really do. You know what I mean? They could do that, but I just got the impression that in the fall, you're going to something. I don't know what it is, but
Wow.
something. I don't know. We'll see. But we've heard that before.
Yeah.
But
we need something. We need now. Eddie Trunk said something about completely different story where he went into a studio and talked to this guy. They obviously this didn't come out, but he heard it with his own ears and talked about it, where it was a box set for Van Halen 1,
right.
like alternate alternate performances, like a box set for Van Halen 1, and it hasn't been. It's ready to go. It just has not been released. He heard it. He heard the tracks like in the studio, but like who's ever controlled, maybe the family or the record company, they something is keeping it from being released.
But that was when Ed was still alive. I
think Ed might have been still alive then.
Yeah, and they were they just said no, and it was already, like you said, ready to go, all remastered, whatever, ready to go. So I mean, listen. I always said that I believe that they never, if you notice, they never remastered any of the Hagar albums. And I think that's because there was so much bad blood between, Eddie, in that Rolling Stone interview with that guy basically said it. He goes, Dave, it was never over money with him. We never fought with him over money. It was just, basically that he was a lunatic and they just didn't get along. You know what I mean? That was the kind of story. But with Sammy, it went much deeper, like the dislike. And I still believe that Alex has some of that dislike for Sam, even though Ed, obviously, he was on his, at the end of his life, so he was making peace, I guess, with people. But I think Alex still has a little bit of, a problem.
I feel the same thing because I listened to these other podcasts and stuff, and people that know the Van Halens know that Alex is not crazy about Hagar.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's why they had, Newstead, because if they were going to go with Michael Anthony, maybe they'd have to get Hagar.
That's exactly.
But if they didn't get Michael Anthony, then no Hagar, and but they need a bass player.
Yeah.
So this all boils back to Sammy's biography, revealing the insider stories that the Van Halens don't want people to know. So
I think that's what did it. I think that book is really what put the final nail in the coffin for Sam. And what I was saying is that, they never remastered any of the Hagar albums. I think that's how bitter they were, that they were like, he's not getting any money from us at any remasters. We're not even going to do it. Just like, basically, I think it was just like, because they have such bad blood and a grudge against him that they, the Roth stuff they didn't care about. But I think that's one of the reasons they never remastered the Hagar stuff, because they
100%, man. I agree 100%.
I think it was because they're very bitter and they're just very, they had that streak in them, the brothers. So
yeah, absolutely. I think it's partly European, because my grandmother had that too. where if you get burned, forget it, man.
Oh, these guys are Dutch guys, mate. And you know, my interaction with Dutch guys over the years, going to school with them, mate, best friends make an enemy of a Dutchman. Steal a dollar from a Dutchman. Steal a dollar from a Dutchman, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Keith's also right. Like, big time grudge, like with Michael Anthony too. I mean, that, because you know what? That interview in Rolling Stone, I'm telling you, that was a great, that story with that guy. He wants to write a book, but it's really in Ed's words. And when you hear it coming from him and the way it's spoken, a lot of it, like, I was always mad at Ed for the whole thing with Michael Anthony, but the way he just explains it in that article is basically like, the singer quit or whatever, was fired. They didn't have a singer. And then Mike, who was one of the three, he kind of bailed on them too and said, I'm going with Sam. So he goes, it was just me and Alex. That's all we had left. You know what I mean? So he quit on it. He bailed on us. So it was just like, we didn't have a singer, and then we didn't have him. So I think, when he explains it that way, I was like, well, I kind of see his point somewhat now.
No, I can see both sides, I guess, with that. But like I read Noel Monk's book, man. Yeah. And if you haven't read Noel Monk's book, don't read it. Don't read it. It will change your opinion of Van Halen.
And Dave and the Brothers, you'll definitely have a different opinion of.
Yeah. It's a fantastic book. Oh boy. They really didn't treat him right. I mean, So, but like, what was he supposed to do? Just sit around?
Right.
He's got bills to pay too. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure, he's not hurting for money, but like, he's got to, even if it's not paying bills, like he wants to go out and play.
Right.
And you're not doing anything, I don't know. That's
Right.
like if I had a band and like, I'm not booking any gigs, I can't fault the other guys for trying to start another band.
Correct.
In a way.
You know, I'm sure he's been approached to write a book. He has to have been.
Yeah.
He has to have been.
Because
what is the only book that people would want to hear? Who was there for the whole thing? The whole thing, he was there. And who was, not like,
almost the only book that I would believe, really.
Not blasted out of his mind on coke or whatever like that, pretty much. He, I think, and
what a book that would be, man.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Steve Rosen's book, man. I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, I think that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, that one,
Yeah.
There's going to be some stuff in there that's going to ruffle feathers. But, yeah, I don't know, did Mike ever say anything about that, about a book, or he would ever?
Yes,
recently, right?
Recently, he said that he was going to write a book, that if he wrote a book, he would not air laundry.
Yeah.
He would not air dirty laundry. And which I can understand it.
And I part of me doesn't want him to, because it was like, he's the guy flying the flag for the band. Yes. He always was, the legacy of the band. He's the only one that really cared about it. The other ones did as much as they could to damage the legacy of the band, but he never did. So I would almost hope it would be just a nice book. You know what I mean? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that the guy from the Rolling Stone article, he said that Eddie and Alex were going to write a book. Eddie told him he was going to write a book.
Heard this. Yes, I heard
this. And he said, for a guy that was, blasted out of his mind on coke and booze for years, he said he had an incredibly good memory of all the details.
Right. I forgot about that. I did hear that. I forgot about that.
So maybe someday Alex will, you know what I mean? Maybe, in a few years.
We need something, man. I don't know. We need, whether it's like a video or some kind of like box set. I don't know. We just need something, man. And I saw Wolfgang in New Haven, solo a couple of months ago. It was fantastic. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, yeah, this guy's got to be, he should be playing some Van Halen. I just don't see what's the point? I mean, yes, he was in Van Halen, but he had nothing to do with those songs. It's like seeing Mariah Carey sing Van Halen. Why would you want that? I never understood that.
I don't want to see him play Van Halen.
Yeah, like I see him.
He can play his own stuff.
Yeah, right, I mean, like it's just he was in Van Halen, but he really had nothing to do with those songs, unless it's like the stuff off of the last album. But you know
what's weird? It's like the hardcore Van Halen fans, like everybody here in the chat and everybody that watches this show, they get it and they understand it. But you go onto some of the just like Facebook pages and just some of these fans, it's like, I don't know where they imagine these things. It's just like that they don't have any clue how this stuff all works or anything like that. It's like I don't think they get it. You know what I mean? It's like to suggest that some of the stuff they suggest is just like, are you high? Are you crazy? You know what I mean? Because it's like none of this would ever happen.
Yeah.
I think, Johnny, what it boils down to, Johnny, is that most of us have an appreciation of how the rock industry works. We've read other biographies, we've seen other biofilms, and the music industry is there to make money in the first place, and it can churn people up, and it has, it's torn people apart, but it's an industry, and unless you know how the music industry works and where your band or artist fits into that cog, into that machine, you're right, John, a lot of what people are saying just won't work in the practical world. So this is what I particularly like about what we do here and talking to you guys. At least some of the opinions that you guys are offering could work in the real world, because that's a machine.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that. But it always amazes me when sometimes, and I try to resist like arguing with them, because it's like some of the stuff they say is just like so. Some guy tried to argue that Sammy wrote all the songs. And I go, oh, no, he didn't. I go, Eddie wrote every one of the music for every one of those songs. I'm sure Sammy wrote some obviously the melodies and the words.
Yeah.
I go, but a lot of those songs, the melodies were dictated. Like When It's Love. I mean, you don't think the melody was right there? It's there already. You know what I mean? He didn't have much to do with that one. The chorus, it's there. He's playing it on the piano. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So And the guy was arguing with me. No, he didn't. Sammy wrote all the songs. I was like, you have no clue, buddy. I'm like, why am I even wasting my? And then that was it. I just like, forget it. Believe what you want to believe. You know,
can't argue. Can't argue.
You can't.
No.
Again, so this is the level of some people, and again, we've got to be respectful of what we say here on the show. But you know, writing the songs isn't the same as contributing the lyrics to a song. Right. You know, writing the music, writing the song clearly. Yeah. You know, that's a different process. Yeah. You know, how many times have we heard, for example, on that soundtrack, Donut City and stuff like that, on that that soundtrack, and a lot of those songs came out on 5150, and we heard them on OU812. You know, so you know, come on. Writing the song isn't providing the lyrics, guys.
Right, exactly. But you know, that always made me laugh about Ed, because you would always say about Michael Anthony, like, he didn't contribute, he didn't write anything. He was the perfect guy to have in your band, because you know, he did his job so well. He never stepped on let you have the spotlight. He just did his job and did it well. And Eddie wouldn't have wanted him writing songs. Are you kidding me? They would have been like,
I know, like, he's gonna write songs, you know.
I don't know. But
I wouldn't want anybody in that band except for Eddie to write songs. I mean, Hagar even said that, like, when he joined the band, that like he had music, but he didn't want to contribute it because he wanted it to stay Van Halen, meaning Eddie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I can look at that.
On the way home before, I had, like, you know, No Shoes Nation radio on, you know, Kenny Chesney's station, and he plays a lot of Van Halen on there. He loves Van Halen, and you know, I think that's the only time Alex ever played with anybody else was with Kenny Chesney's band and Eddie, right? It was like
somebody said that, somebody said that. Yeah,
and I think it was a big deal for them, because I saw the crew and everybody. There's a big picture of them all with Van Halen. So he plays a lot of Van Halen on there. And before he played that Sammy song that Eddie produced the album, The Eagles Fly, remember?
Yeah.
So Eddie played. We know he played bass on that album, but I know Eddie played guitar on one little piece of. I think it might be in that song Eagles Fly, because he's doing a bend and doing the harmonics, like at the 12th and 14th fret.
Oh, yeah, I got to go back and listen.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody knows that. I'm sure somebody in the chat might know it, but I always try to figure out what it was. And I think it's in Eagles Fly. The very beginning of the solo, he starts doing that, you know, like
the harmonics. Yeah.
And then you could tell the tone changes, and you could tell it's Sammy playing guitar, because it's different, like the rest of the solo, just that one bit at the beginning. So check it out and tell me if I'm crazy.
Oh, I never noticed. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. No question.
Like weird things like that. And then I told I don't remember if I told you guys, but Chicago, the band, I guess Bruce Fairbairn was doing their album. They were doing a big band album at the same time he was doing Balance. So you know, Eddie plays on the song Caravan. That's the word. The solo in the song Caravan is Eddie playing it. And if you listen to it, yeah, go on iTunes later on. Listen to Caravan by Chicago from the album 1995. In 95 it came out, and listen to Caravan.
Wow, I never heard this before.
Yeah, it's an old jazz standard, Caravan, and listen to the solo in it. And it's allegedly it was Eddie. Bruce Fairbairn asked him, "Hey Ed, can you do me a favor, just throw like a solo on this?" And he did uncredited, you know, uncredited. So,
yeah, uncredited.
So
like beat it. Yeah,
but, and also Eagles Fly. If anybody knows, like, listen to that and see what you think. The very beginning, because Sammy never did that stuff where the harmonics.
Oh, I know.
So I think that's the part that he played that he wouldn't tell anybody, but he did say he was on there, because I played guitar one spot on the album. That was it. So anyway,
I'm gonna check that out.
That's my useless.
Good info.
That's my useless information for tonight.
Good info, man. Good info.
I just want to get back to the point that that Jim made earlier about Michael Anthony, you know, having to play. Clearly, you know, he had bills to pay, but I think the point that we have to bear in mind too, guys, that this guy's been a professional musician all his life. It's like Keith Richards and Mick Jagger. These guys have to perform. They're not doing it for the money. Their very life, the reason why they exist. You know, and it's the same with you, John. You know, you play your guitar every day. I do too. Same with you, Jim. If we're not doing this to echo back who we are as human beings, well, I'd hate to see and think where I would be. And it's the same with Michael Anthony. You know, he's got to play bass. He's a musician.
100%. And, you know, and a lot of people, I don't think they realize it. his father was a musician too. His father was, I
Correct.
think, he played the horn or something, I believe. And, so, and he was like at 12 years old. He wasn't even a guitar player at like 12 or 14 years old. He was already a bass player at like 12 or 14. You know what I mean? You see that picture of his first band, and he's like maybe 14, and he's playing bass already in that band. So it's like, when people would try to like, say, oh, Michael Anthony just, he was playing what Eddie wanted him to play, basically.
No.
So people say it's not complicated bass lines. Well, that's what Eddie wanted him. Eddie wrote the songs, and I'm sure, and the whole thing where, oh yeah, he had to videotape Eddie playing it. Well, yeah, Eddie wrote the song, and this is what he wanted on the bass. So maybe he did give him a videotape and say, "Watch this is what I'm doing on here."
I've always said that, like, it's, I've always said that. That's kind of like how it probably went. Like, it's not, it wasn't like, Michael Anthony came up with the bass parts. Maybe, maybe not to every song, but like there had to be a situation there where Eddie was like, "Hey man, this is how the song goes. I want, how about doing E to D and then back to G or whatever." You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's, I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean,
No.
that's how a band works, really.
And you know what? And it's not like, a band like Rush or something like that where there's intricate bass lines going on and things like that. There's nothing in that, everybody's, well, Wolfgang's a better bass player than Mike. Well, how can you qualify that or whatever is that statement? Because the stuff in Van Halen, he just did different fills, added fills and stuff like that. And, and Mike just kept it.
That's what you need. That's the beauty of Van Halen. It's like, it's just really good music. And like a great example is like, I was listening to some podcast and it never occurred to me. Right. But somebody was saying how like Eddie never overplayed. Like that guy, he could have burned every solo.
That's right.
Right. And I was like, oh yeah. Like, look at like, Running with the Devil, he's just, doing, and I'm like, he easily could have been,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, that's a great point. And like, stuff like, what's that song? Like, Women in Love. Like, he's got that, melodic solo there where he easily could have just thrown anything. I'm like, that is just the genius of that guy. It's like for the song. And going back to Michael Anthony, it's like for the song. I mean, those songs, I mean, you can't argue. Those songs are like the greatest songs ever written, man.
Right. And that's why I think that's the secret weapon that separates him from most other guitar legends. Like Jeff Beck is a phenomenal guitar player. I love Jeff Beck. But, the catalog of Van Halen songs that he has, aside from being a guitar hero, it's just like it's unmatched by any of these other great guitar players. Really, when you think about it, I mean, their greatest hits album. It's not. It's like that best of both worlds. I mean, that's literally 24 songs. I mean, it's like every from sports stadiums in this country, hockey. It's like. These are in our in the fabric of the culture.
Yes, it's in the consciousness of America. Yeah, it's in like the public consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when you get into that level, like in a public consciousness, like any band that does that, when you touch that, like it's like you're going to in the Indonesia somewhere on a little boat somewhere, and some guy's got a radio and Jump is playing on that radio. Yeah. It's just like when you hit that, that's what you're big time. And they touched that. Van Halen were there. You know what I mean? And not many bands get to do that. You know what I mean? Get into that public conscious. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
it's interesting you should say that, John, because Brad, one of the co-hosts on the 5150 show, and Hoss, we were talking one show, and they pointed this out, and it became more apparent to me. They said the thing with Eddie is that he wasn't just a guitar player. Eddie was this musician, trained classical piano guy. So he had this fuller appreciation of that musical landscape that you're talking about, as opposed to like a guitar player who might just jump on and do exactly what you said, Jim. Just rip it up, just rip it. So I think, for me, when they said that kind of made things a little bit more focused for me as far as Eddie goes, because I don't think we can understand fully. I don't think, because I'm not a keyboard player. That those first steps that he had in music by being able to be that keyboard player, which gave him I think a solid, more of a deeper understanding. And it's the guy couldn't write music, didn't read music, so it was inherent in him, John. So you're right.
Yeah, which is to your point, it's almost like he was a maestro. You know what I mean? Like that piano keyboard, that's like an orchestra at your fingertips. You have, it's a percussive instrument, the piano. I mean, it's like you're playing melody, you're playing, it's got every element of music when you're playing the piano. And I think people that have that in their background, they have a better understanding of the whole ball of wax as far as, music. And like you said, otherwise they'd be doing like, unedited 20-minute guitar solos. But I think Ed knew how to self-edit and
yes. That's the genius of that guy, man.
Yeah, and arrange, and Alex also too. Alex is way more of a trained musician like that than Eddie. Alex can actually read music and open a page up and play Bach or Beethoven, just open it and sight read. Eddie could not sight read. He could sit and figure out, like the rest of us, notes and sit there and on the piano and just do it like that, pick at it, like, but I mean, Alex is just like, he's like legit. He doesn't get enough credit for that too. And I think that he's a very musical drummer that way too, because it's like, I think because of that piano background, I think, Eddie wrote the music, but him and Al, I always say, is like they shared a brain. You know what I mean? It's like they both thought they knew where each other was going. So it was like most bands, you have to, if somebody has an idea, they got to explain it to the drummer and do this, do that. I think with them, it was just like, basically it was like one guy playing both instruments. You know what I mean? Because it was like they thought so much alike, and for so long they played together. And I think they benefited from that, because that connection that they had. You hear any band play a Van Halen, you know what I mean? It's just nobody can capture that, like what they had. Nobody ever will. I'm sure that's the same with a lot of bands. You know what I mean? But just,
but those guys were brothers, and they grew up together, and
exactly
went through everything together. And I know it's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. So I mean, you'll never see stuff like that again. It is pretty amazing. See, like Wolfgang, he doesn't have a brother. He knows what he wants to do. He knows what he wants his drummer to do. So he has to be his own drummer. You know what I mean? So it's like,
And good thing he plays like every instrument too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to introduce a little bit of maybe controversy, ladies and gentlemen, towards the tail end of the show. I'm going to ask Johnny and Jim their opinions on this, and obviously feel free to offer your opinions in the chat. Johnny, kick it off for us. Seeming you're the last one on the stream. Thoughts on this reunion gig tour, EVH reunion gig tour? You got anything that you want to share with us? And then Jim, you can add your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I can be honest with you. I could, unless it's done exactly perfectly right, I don't want it to happen at all. And no matter what happens, if they do it, it's going to be a huge letdown to me, because the fact that Eddie Van Halen is not going to walk out on the stage, I'm not interested. I don't care. I don't need to see another guitar player trying to duplicate Eddie's licks. You know what I mean? It's just, to me, it's pointless in a way. You know what I mean? It's like, if a band wants to come out and do like, like the, do a Van Halen song, because he did write the music for these songs. So it's like, but trying to duplicate his guitars, what is the point of it? You're not going to get it 100% right. It's like, anybody will tell you that. I'd rather just see them do their own interpretations of the songs. And I don't want it just limited to just heavy metal guitar players. I'm sorry. Van Halen was in the public conscious, what we just said. I think everybody should be invited, like country music, jazz, everybody should be there, and just do your own take on a piece of music that Eddie wrote, solo your own way over it, or the clarinet or whatever, or a saxophone, whatever you want to do something unique with his song. I'd be more interested in that than seeing some guy get up there and playing note for note Eddie Eruption. I could care less about that. You know what I mean? I can go on YouTube and watch that crap all night long. You know what I mean? So that's so I'm kind of like, I don't really care if it happens or not, to be honest with you, because if he's not there, forget it. I'm not interested, really.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's the same. John and I, we've talked about this ad nauseum. I mean, I feel that, like, I mean, I would want to maybe, depending, like John said, depending on the circumstances, I'd be interested or I would not be interested. Like, I don't want to see them do a tour that just seems like a money grab. I don't feel right about that. Right? If they were gonna do just a kind of like this Taylor Hawkins thing, if they were gonna do this big concert like at Wembley, hell yeah, man. Or like the Queen thing. The Queen is iconic.
That's awesome.
Freddie Mercury thing, right? But seeing like John said, seeing Satriani or anybody, Nuno Betancourt or whatever, playing Eddie's parts. I mean, I've seen Eddie play Eddie's parts. I don't know. Like if it was like a one-time thing like this Taylor Hawkins thing, yeah, pay-per-view or something, yeah, I'd get it.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you what, man, the other side that people don't really talk about is that I don't think it's ever going to happen. First of all, Hagar and David Lee Roth is never going to share a stage with it. Never. Under any circumstances, $100 billion, it's not going to happen. He's never going to share the Van Halen name with Hagar. Okay, it's never going to happen. So, right off the bat, you're picking some era over another one. So it would just be, let's say, the Dave stuff. I mean, he's not going to sing the Hagar stuff, right? And but yeah, I just I don't I have zero interest in seeing a tour where they go to like every city. I don't know, and like you make money. I just doesn't feel right, man.
Plus, Jimmy, you know what? Sammy's 74 years old. Roth's pushing 70. They've lost a lot off their fastball. They're gonna have to tune down a whole step like Hagar's doing now. Yeah. And when you tune down, listen to like Bon Jovi and all these bands. It sounds like dinosaur music plodding along. It just U2. Listen to Pride by U2. Like they tune it like so far down now. It just drags. It's just like I don't want to see it. It's like, I'd rather remember it the way it was. You know what I mean?
It's like, what I said is instead of doing like this tribute thing, just open up those vaults, man.
Yes.
Okay, so that's my point. Thank you, Jim. So, I look, I have to echo what you said. Yeah, and I don't want to see half or whole steps down too. I'm a Rolling Stones nut, guys, and the Rolling Stones. Mick's not singing anymore. He's rapping now. And 79 years old. He's going to be 80, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's a nostalgic act, I don't think Van Halen were a band that wanted us to go and see them, remnants of them, from a nostalgic point of view. I think Van Halen wanted us to be nostalgic when we were in our own environments, listening to them, doing our own thing. When that's what Van Halen is for me. So. I don't know how they're going to honour the memory of Eddie Van Halen. It's happening now. You're having stadiums and streets and boulevards named after him. That would be great, and high schools. And, he's already got his music brand now. But, you can go and buy a guitar, or an amp, to personally to have some kind of honour in yourself as a person to Eddie Van Halen. But I got to echo what you said, Jim. Open up the vaults.
Yeah.
Give us the vaults.
Yes.
Let's see some old footage, man. Just, like something like that whole History thing that Kiss did. Like I said, I'm not a huge Kiss fan. I know that, but for some reason, I'm fascinated by the Kiss history. Like all those people coming in and out, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Do something like that. Like I know that footage is there. I know that footage is there. Just release something, man. And do it for the fans. I mean, look, they don't owe us anything, but if you have it, look, why not make a few extra shekels? Release it and make some money.
Well, look at that famous footage that's on YouTube where they're doing that Who song, Van Halen, and Sammy drinks out of Eddie's bottle of Heineken, at 5150. There's got to be footage of that in the studio,
did you see
where they're doing
thing?
that?
Andrew, did you see that new thing that came out like a week ago where it's some like Conks, you saw this, right? I sent it to you. Where it's like that news footage where they're playing Seventh Seal, I mean.
Yeah, right.
And he's playing the Gold Top, EBM.
Yes.
In 5150, yeah. It's like a video.
Where does that footage come from?
Yeah, exactly.
That's never been seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So hopefully they start releasing even some stuff like that, you know. I mean, I almost flipped out. That's like the only footage you ever see of him ever playing that Gold Top.
And Jim, you're right. They could name their price for that stuff.
Oh, here, take my money. Take my money. Yeah, here, take whatever it is. If you give me, oh my God, I don't know what I would pay for give me a pro shot. There's a lot of footage from Diver Down. I don't need any footage from Diver Down.
Right.
There's a lot of footage. Largo, Us Festival, Venezuela, Caracas. There's a lot of footage. Give me something from like any of the other tours. Ideally, I would want something. Man, if it was like Fair Warning, name your price.
Yeah,
I'll sell my house.
I mean, you know what? It's crazy because there's so much more like Led Zeppelin stuff, and Led Zeppelin was a decade really before Van Halen. Yeah, there's so much pro shot video. I mean, just tracks and stuff it's like incredible the amount of stuff. And I'm like, and Alex used to always Alex used to say, "Oh, Led Zeppelin wouldn't do this." So Led Zeppelin did do this stuff, Alex. You know what I mean? How is it that you don't have a pro shot like the 1984 tour? The album was there. You go.
He's doing this stuff. Jimmy's doing this stuff all the time, brothers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and it just boggles my mind that like I was just saying, 1984, that album, sold. They say it sold 10 million copies. Van Halen never even bothered to get recertified again. It's more like 18 million now. I heard an estimate, and Van Halen 1 is like 20 million copies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the band has to pay. The record company's not interested in it. They just want the money from the sales. They're not interested in recertifying it because
the band has to pay to recertify it. Yes.
Yeah, and the band has to pay to get it recertified, and Van Halen had no interest in doing that. But I had heard that it estimated like 1984 is around 18 million probably in sales. Van Halen 1's like 20 million. It's 5150 is probably over 10 million at this point. So, but they just don't care enough to do it and the record companies don't, because it probably opens a can of worms for them as far as royalties. They say, okay, if this is what we sold, we're not getting paid for this. So, so it's it's kind of crazy that they probably sold a lot more albums than they're given credit for too. They just don't seem to care. You know what I mean? The family or whatever. It's kind of crazy.
That's a good point, John. Because the record companies will have to write out more checks, won't they?
Yes, exactly. That's a can of worms there, right?
I brought up that Ernie Ball. I have to give a shout out to our friend Les Paul Gibson, who just recently bought he bought this beautiful amber Axis. So there you go, Les. There you go, LPG.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah, I know you guys, Andrew, you're a huge fan of like the Ernie Balls. I see. I hear.
Yeah, I've got. So over there somewhere, over there on that side of the wall, I've got an Axis. Only because it was affordable at the time. Anything with the EVH stuff on it is just even before Eddie passed away was really, really expensive. So as you guys know, clearly in the States now, those EVH Music Man guitars, 4 or 5 times the price they were, 6 times the price. And they're only ever going to go up, aren't they, John and Jim?
Yeah.
They're not going to drop.
They're not making any more of them.
No.
Yeah. It's like gold. Like there's just a limited quantity. Yeah,
those are magical guitars too, man. Yeah, they really are. So
yeah, I when I was a kid, I had a blue Van Halen, and then I had a natural Van Halen. And then, like, I don't know, I forget. You never, you're a kid, so I ended up selling them. Right now, I've got a purple Ernie Ball Axis, which is fine. It's good. I got a good deal for it on it, like last year on my birthday. I'm like, well, let me grab it.
It's my one regret selling. I had a first year Amber, and I hadn't played in a long time because I was playing the Wolfgangs now and other guitars. And I was like, and I always said to myself, I don't want to become attached to any guitar. You know what I mean? I just don't want to be that kind of person attached to a guitar. So it was sat under there for years in the case. It was, and I finally just said, I'm going to sell it. And now it's like, that's the one guitar I should have sold. You know what I mean? But
I'm going to share one thing with you guys.
I can't even remember what happened. Like, I can't remember where I sold them or how I sold them. It was so long ago.
Well, when you have traumatic experiences,
I'll share something with you guys. Midway through September, I'm going to pick up a 2x12 PV combo 5150. I managed to track one down here in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
For a good price. Yeah. So
I had one of those. I had a combo. I had a 5150 combo. Yeah, man.
Those things are heavy and loud.
That's the only thing.
Heavy and loud, Andrew.
Don't plan
I'm looking
on moving
forward to
it. When you get it situated, never move it.
Yeah, exactly.
it comes with 4 wheels, so
good.
Yeah. But
I had
to
put wheels on mine. I
when
I was in some bands that's the only amp I had, and I had to put wheels on it. I put casters on it. Oh, it was because you couldn't lift that thing. Yeah. No, they're good. Those are fantastic.
Oh,
I mean,
the
original 5150s. I mean, come on.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. And it's just it's
Very
something
cool.
something to keep. But as you guys said, it's the stuff isn't going to the prices aren't going to fall, and it's always a fact, isn't it, when someone passes away? But I look forward to.
How easy is it? How easy is it to find equipment out there in New Zealand? You have stuff like Guitar Center and stuff.
No. Yeah. We have what they call the rock shop here, so you can pick up the EVH stuff. You can pick up the Wolfgangs, the Fender stuff, the Fender Wolfgangs, the iconic amps and all the 5150 amps. You can, the EVH stuff. They're all readily available.
Is it like twice the price?
Yeah. So, for example, this guitar here, I think if you bought that, it's about, I think list price is about $3K.
Wow.
Yeah. Shipping is the thing. Shipping is the thing here for New Zealand. So, and then, like we've had a look at, we've done some price comparisons with some of those EVH Music Mans, so by the time you pay the difference in the New Zealand versus Australian dollar, it's like $400
Jeez.
New Zealand dollars to ship a guitar from the States to New Zealand.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So there are some advantages, guys, to being in North America.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know.
A couple,
hey,
right?
It's been a pleasure, guys, hanging out with you guys. Jim, are you going to come back for part 2?
I would absolutely love it, man. I had the time of my life, man. I'd love it. Invite me back. I'll be back.
Come back in 4 weeks' time, because I didn't even get to ask you half the questions I had planned.
Perfect. Love to.
John, are you going to come back too?
You know it.
Yeah. Good to see you.
You can't shut that guy up. Johnny Bombas. I just saw that, Johnny Bombas.
Yeah. Well, look, we had a bit of fun. It was always good. It's been a pleasure hanging out with Jim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jim's been here like he's been here for 5 years, the way he fitted straight in, so that's awesome, fantastic. Awesome, yeah. So it's always good when that spark, when you get that spark. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't happen all the time, but when you get it, it's always something that you relish and you want to run with. So thank you guys for jumping on.
Absolutely.
I'm going to include all the social media links that Jim's going to send me. So, Jim, I want you to send me some social media links to whatever you've got, your YouTube channel, your Facebook page, and I'll attach that to the video. Same with you, John, if you want to do that. If you can flick me your social media links, and we'll attach it to the video. We get a lot of views after because of the time zones and stuff like that. We get, and also we've been fortunate enough, guys, to have people join us, and they've shared our channel links to Brazil, to Japan as well. So, we get. A lot
I want
of
to tell you, give my best to the other hosts like Brad and Simon.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a huge Simon fan. That guy is the most amazing guitar, Van Halen tribute guitarist. And Conks will attest. I don't say that lightly.
No, he doesn't.
Amazing.
I'll get him on. We'll make sure. I promise we'll do everything we can to have him on the next show. And
Brad and Simon and everybody else. Yeah.
And Jim, you got to check out. Brad has an album out too. I have it on iTunes. I have it. Apple Music, and I'm telling you, phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah. So,
Brad is,
let me know.
Brad is the man. He's great too. So
absolutely,
you got to. I'm gonna shoot you a couple songs off that. You got to listen to him play on there. Singing it, man. It's just great stuff. Really impressed with that whole album.
I was telling Andrew before we went live about your Surf's Up Eddie and how great that is, man. That is such a great tune, dude.
Oh, yeah. So I got to say this. I promised Alan that I would say hi to you too, John, because I did a show earlier with Alan and we were talking, and he said something to me. He goes, Andrew, I'm going to tell you something, and I said, what? He said, John Conklin is a guitar player. He can play. So remember that. He's just not a guy that talks about stuff.
You know what? You know what the best line to say is? I'm good enough to know that I'm not that good. That's the truth, right? I'm good enough. You're good enough to know you're not that good.
That's not the truth, man. I was telling him how you showed me the beginning of Dirty Movies, like what he's doing in Dirty Movies, and like how I do that, and I give you credit. Remember you showed me that?
Good to see. Yeah. Good to see, Jim. You're giving someone some credit now and again. Oh, that's always good.
Absolutely, man.
If you're not getting kicked out of Van Halen concerts.
Oh yeah, I'm a troublemaker, man. I'm a troublemaker.
Andrew, you know what? One last thing. I've known of Jimmy since the 1995 from the Van Halen mailing list. I know he was talking about that earlier. That's where I knew the name. I knew Rob Johnson from there. I knew you from there. There's so many of the same people now that are like that we know now that we actually have a face to go with the name and on there. But it's crazy. But since like 95, I've known who Jimmy Vombis was, because he was a wise ass back then too. But
yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, I've had a lot of fun. I look forward to coming back with John and Jim. We're going to book tentatively in 4 weeks' time. We'll come back for part 2 because, like I say,
I'd love that.
We never got to finish asking Jim some questions, and look, we'll have a bit of fun. But I'm going to say I'm going to be back in a few hours with Brad and the Rock Professor. We're going to be talking about Eric Clapton. I'm going to ask John to say some final words. Then I'm going to ask you, Jim, to say some final words, and then we're going to cruise.
I just want to say hello to everybody in the chat. I see a lot of familiar names in there in the chat. Everybody in there, how you guys doing? On a Saturday night here. Here it is anyway. It's Sunday and where Andrew is. But it was great, and I had a great time as always, Andrew. And Jim, I talk to you every day pretty much, and text back and forth every day. So
yeah, you're right.
Text you in a few hours, probably.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, Andrew, I want to thank you for having me on, man. Like I'm pretty much nobody, so I had a great time on here, talking about Van Halen and all that stuff. So, I'm surprised that people have even tuned in for this to see me. So thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. No, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Don't go anywhere, guys. I'm just going to drop you guys out, and I'm going to play a little bit of the music that was donated to the channel from our good friend Luca from Pretoria, South Africa, who's going to come back and join us for another show. But thank you. Thank you, guys, for hanging out. Don't go anywhere.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.